Good day, everybody. Today I'm going to be reviewing the board game Risk Lord of the Rings Trilogy Edition. This version of Risk came out in 2003 from Hasbro, and it is for 2 to 4 players. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Risk. The object of the game is you're basically trying to take over the world, or you're trying to take over a certain amount of lands depending on what your mission is. Well, this game adds a lot of different elements to the original game of Risk. You've got adventure cards, you've got leaders, you've got strongholds, you've got sites of power, and then you have the Fellowship Ring. So, let's show you how this game works. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the differences between this game and the regular Risk game. They've added quite a lot of things to it, and then I'm going to kind of go over how the game works and all of those things. Anyway, one of the first things that's different about this game is that they have rivers and mountains in here. Here's some mountains over here, and here's a big river that's going through. Basically what this means is mountains will basically make certain regions unpassable. Like you couldn't go from here to here because there's a mountain. And the same with the rivers. You wouldn't be able to go from here to here if you wanted to. However, at least with the rivers, there are certain places that have bridges. So if you have a place where there is a bridge, you'll be able to cross the bridge to get into the next land. There's also ports as far as how you're able to invade from one land to another using the water. If you remember the original Risk game, you could attack from, say, South America to Africa. There'd be a line. Well, with this, there's ports. So there's a boat over here. So what this means is you could attack this land over here because there's a port, or you could go all the way up here to where there's a port, and from there you could either attack there, and from there you could go there, etc. Now, there are also what are called leaders in this game, and this is an example of what a leader is. A leader does not attack, but what a leader can do is it will add +1 to your attack or your defense if you are attacking your enemy with an army that has a leader, or if he is getting attacked. Now, this game also has what are called strongholds and sites of power. What the strongholds are, they are the ones here that are in gold, these different pieces. Basically what this does is if anybody attacks a land that has a stronghold, that is going to add +1 to their defense. And also, you are going to receive 1 reinforcement anytime you are in a land that has a stronghold. Now, the sites of power are the ones that are labeled here in black. Like here's a site of power, here's a site of power. Basically what that means is if by the end of your turn, if you happen to have a leader and an army that is occupying a land that has a site of power, you're going to be receiving what is called an adventure card at the end of your turn. Now, what adventure cards are, these are cards that you can play on your turn for various reasons. Here's an example. One that says you can receive extra battalions in any territory. In this region over here, it says Elven's Hall. Here's another one. It says play at the start of your turn. Choose a bridge to block. At the start, no battalions may cross the bridge in this case. So there's a whole bunch of these different types of cards. A lot of these are extra battalions that you can typically place in a certain region anywhere, and these can be really helpful when you're trying to build your army. Here's another one that says add 1 to your highest die roll for the entire invasion. So there's a lot of different cards here, and you can basically only play these on your turn unless the card specifies otherwise, which I haven't seen any card that does that. But anyway, that's what these cards do. The other thing is what is called the Fellowship, the Fellowship Ring over here. Fellowship Ring is going to start over here, and there's a little pathway, if you look, that goes all the way over here to Mount Doom. Now what's going to happen is at the end of everybody's turn, this ring is going to follow this path into the next territory. Right now it's over here, and so at the end of my turn it's going to go here, and then the end of my wife's turn is going to go here, etc. Now there's a few lands that have a die on here. Now what's going to happen is whenever the ring ends up here, the person whose turn it is going to have to roll the die to see if it is going to advance to the next land. If it's a 4, 5, or a 6, it will. If it's under a 4, it will not. It'll just stay there. Now let me go ahead and talk about the little armies over here. These basically, there's 3 different pieces, and there's a good side and an evil side, and they have different looking pieces, as you can see. The Elven Archer represents 1 battalion, the horses are 3, and then these are 5, the Eagle and the Cave Troll. So anytime you end up having, say, 5 battalions on one land, you could just simply substitute it for this, just so there won't be so many of these archers on the premises here. Now I'm going to go over how the game is set up real quick, and then the order, what you're going to be doing during your turn. First thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and give each player, depending on how many players there are, this many battalions to start. So you go ahead and separate all of those out. Now the next thing you're going to do is there are certain cards in here that represent the good lands, and then certain ones that represent the bad lands. For example, this represents a land that is evil. What you're going to do is you're going to deal out a certain amount of these cards to the good and the bad armies, and then what they're going to do is they're going to place an army on one of those lands. For example, this area, Mordor, is a place where the evil people are mainly going to be, so you might end up getting a card from here that would mainly just be evil. And of course the good guys, you know, they're around here, and there's other places too, but a lot of the cards that are the good cards are going to be in here, this area. So what you'll do is you'll just deal out a certain amount of the good and the evil cards from the deck, and then players are just simply going to place one army on any land of a card that they have received. After that, everybody's going to go ahead and just start individually placing the pieces on the board until all of the lands have somebody on them, and then everybody's going to start placing extra armies on the board just one at a time until all the reinforcements and all the armies are on the board, and that's how it's going to start. So now the leaders you can basically place wherever you would like to, so long as it is on your army. You're going to place those last. And a good place to place a leader would be, it could be on a stronghold over here or a side of power over here. So that's basically how the setup works, and I'll do another video later on, go into more detail. But let's go ahead and go over the turn order and what exactly happens. The first thing that's going to happen is that whoever starts is going to receive reinforcements, and there's a number of ways that you can receive reinforcements. The first way you're going to receive reinforcements is when you have a stronghold that you are in control of. You're going to receive one reinforcement automatically over there. The second way is by territories that you own. At the start of your turn, you're going to count all the territories that you have control of, and then you're going to divide that number by 3. So let's just say you happen to have control of 20 territories. That would give you 6 extra reinforcements. You would basically round the number down. So then you'd get those. Now another way you can get reinforcements is if you end up controlling an entire region. So here's a perfect example. Right now, I am in control of Mordor, this area over here, all these lands. So since I am in control of this entire region with Mordor, I'm going to receive 2 bonus reinforcements, and each of these regions will give you a certain amount. And then the next way you would get them is by the cards over here. At the beginning of the game, you're going to receive one of these cards, and what you're trying to do is you're going to be able to hold a maximum of 5 of these cards. And what you're going to try to do is you are going to try to either get 3 of one of these symbols, and there's the archer, there's the horse, and then of course there's the let's see, and of course at least with the good guys there's the eagle. You're going to try to get either 3 of those, or you're going to try to get a combination of all of them. So you could try to get the archer, the bird, and then the horse. You can do it that way. And then depending on which combination you get, you're going to receive some extra reinforcements. And this is another difference of the game. You're only going to get a set amount of these. Like in the original Risk game, this number goes up every single time someone turns in cards. Not the case with this. You're just going to receive a set amount depending on whatever you get. And this basically would just tell you how many bonus battalions you get with each combination. So that's another way that you will go ahead and get reinforcements at the beginning of the turn. So anyway, after you've gone ahead and gotten all your reinforcements at the beginning of your turn, you're going to go ahead and just place them wherever on any territories that you own to try to make them stronger or whatever. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to do combat. And what you have here, you got 3 attack dice over here, and then you have 2 defense die. And the way attacking works is simple. You would just simply look at a land that is adjacent to you that your enemy owned. Let's say I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to attack these guys from here. So it'll be 3 guys versus 2 guys. Now the way it works is if you are attacking, you have to always have at least 1 person left on the land. So if you have, like, say 3 people on there, you're only going to be able to roll a maximum of 2 dice. Now you can roll up to 3 dice if you would like to, so long as you have at least 4 players attacking, or you can roll 1 or 2. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to roll numbers that are going to beat what the defense is going to roll. Now, the defense can roll 1 or 2 dice, however he would like to as well. If he's going to roll 2 die, he has to have at least 2 people to defend with. So here's an example. And of course, if there is a leader on either side, you're going to go ahead and add a +1 to the armies that have a leader over there. And of course, also, if you're attacking a place that has a stronghold, the stronghold is going to also get an extra +1. So let's just say I roll, and I roll some pretty bad numbers over here. And I forgot to mention this, whenever the strongholds will give you a +1 and the leaders will give you a +1 on your highest die roll. So it's not going to do it with all the die, just one, the top one. But anyway, let's just say I went ahead and I attacked with, I can only attack with 2. And I rolled a 2 and a 1, and my defense rolled a 5 and a 4. Basically, they beat me both times, so I'm going to go ahead and, I would simply go ahead and remove 2 of the battalions on the board, and I would set them aside because they're dead. Now what I can do is I can decide, obviously I can't attack again, but what I can do is I can just try to pick another place to attack from. So let's say I could attack, like I could take these guys that has a leader. I've got 4 people here. I could attack these 2. So let's just say again, I decide I'm going to go ahead and roll the 3 dice, and then the defense rolls, and we go ahead and compare again. Now since I have a leader over here, I can go ahead and make this a 6. Which I don't need to really do in this. But anyway, we'll just simply compare the dice again, and defense will win ties, in case I forgot to mention that. And in this case, I've basically killed off the people defending, so I would take them out. Now, obviously, the object is you're going to try to wipe out the enemy in the land, and then you're going to be able to move your people in there. Now, in the rules with this game, you can move in as many of these as you would like to. Certain games will limit it, but in this one, there's no limit. So long as you leave at least one person or one army in here, then you can move as many as you would like. Now, the leader itself does not attack. He's just there. So if you happen, and you can't lead the leader by himself. You have to have him with an army. So if you are defending a land that has a leader and the people attacking you kill off your last army, then that is also going to kill off your leader, and he's going to be out. Now, there's 3 leaders in the game. Once the 3rd leader is gone, that doesn't mean all your leaders are gone. You're simply going to just take a leader and just place it somewhere on the board. So at least you'll have 1 leader. You'll just basically keep attacking and as long as you would like to. And of course, if you want to stop, you can always stop and just go somewhere else or whatever you would like to. Now, of course, you also have these cards that you can play on your turn. A lot of times you're going to be boosting your battalions. There's other cards that are going to basically help you or hurt your opponent. And you can play as many of these cards as you would like to. Okay, after you've decided to stop attacking, you're going to go ahead and fortify one of your countries. And that just basically means you're going to move some armies from one country into an adjacent country that you own. You don't have to do this, it's optional. So an example would be if I wanted to take these 2 guys and move them over here, I could very well do that. After that, you're going to receive a territory card if you've managed to win a battle. And you can have up to 5 of them. And of course, if you happen to have a leader over where there is a site of power, over here for example, you'll get an adventure card for each land that you have that has a site of power in which you have a leader. So you get those. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and move the ring. So in this case, this is the next land over, and so you would just simply move the ring over there. Now what you're going to do at the end of the game, once the ring reaches Mount Doom, you're going to go ahead and roll the die to see if the ring actually gets thrown in there. If you end up rolling higher than a 3, then it will, and that will signal the end of the game. Scoring, you're going to basically count all your territories up, and you're going to get 1 point for each one that you control. For every stronghold that you control, you're going to get 2 points. You're also going to get points for any of these adventure cards that you played. It, for example, says move one of your leaders to any territory you control. The leader can then continue as normal. As soon as you do this, you will just simply play this card, lay it down, and then you will go ahead and get the point value that is indicated here on the card. Same with this, you'll get a point value if you do these. There's point values on most of these cards except for the ones that play immediately. So you'll go ahead and you'll add those up as well. And then you're going to get points for complete regions held. You'll just basically add whatever this number is. So since I controlled Mordor, if I happen to have that at the end of the game, I would go ahead and add 2 points to my total score. And then you'll go ahead and total all those points up, and whoever has the highest amount of points will end up winning the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Risk Lord of the Rings, the Trilogy Edition. So our final thoughts on Risk Lord of the Rings Trilogy Edition. Well, Hasbro actually came out with a Lord of the Rings game for Risk a while back, and I believe it was called, I can't remember the first name of it, but anyway, it had a much smaller board, and it was missing a lot of the territories that were in the movie, and a lot of people complained about it. So later on, Hasbro made this game after the third movie came out, and it has all of the territories. I like the fact that it has a vertical board. I don't really see that very often in board games. Usually they're out lengthwise, but this one's vertical, and it's really big board too. This game has a lot of parts to it too. It comes with about 90 pieces or so per side, so there's almost 350 some odd pieces in this game if you don't count the dice and everything. I like the way the adventure cards work in this game. It's very cool. The only thing I wish is that they had some cards that you could play on defense, because you can only play these cards when you are the attacker or when it's your turn. So if somebody throws a bunch of battalions on a certain territory, you don't really have a card that you can say cancel that or anything like that. So I wish that they would have put some defensive cards in here. Now, another thing I like about this version of the game is that it's not going to drag on and on like a typical Risk game would, because the ring will just slowly make its way over to Mount Doom, and then if you're able to throw the ring in there, the game is going to end. So I personally like that aspect of it, because that's not going to make the game as long as it can be. Now, some Risk purists probably will not like that, because, you know, obviously the object of those games is for world domination. Personally, I think it's fine. You can still play with the regular Risk rules with this game, and I believe they have a couple of other variants that you can do with this as well. Theme-wise, this game is really good. The actual map on the board is really accurate to the actual way the movie is. The cards are great. They got nice artwork on them, and the pieces are pretty nice. You know, they kind of look like your standard Risk miniatures, but I like the fact that you have a good side and an evil side, and then you have the good territories and the bad territories that you'll pass out to each of the players, depending on what side they're on, and they'll automatically be able to claim some of them. So that's really cool. I like that. Now, I ended up getting this game on Facebook Marketplace again, and it took a little while, but me and the person were finally able to meet so I could get this, and they had another Risk Lord of the Rings game. It was the original one that I got that as well. So would I recommend this game? Well, if you like Risk and you like Lord of the Rings, obviously, yes, I would. If you are a Risk purist and you don't like the new rules, then no, I wouldn't do it at all. I wouldn't do that. But the added cards, I like those a lot, because it balances out the game a lot better. Because if you play regular Risk and you end up losing a lot of battles, you know, you're going to end up getting cremated, because you're not going to be able to get enough reinforcements, and your opponents are going to be collecting a ton of reinforcements. So with some of those battalion cards, you can throw those down and give yourself 4 or 5 reinforcements right there. So that's a huge help, and that can actually help turn the game around some. I like this version of the game. Really just depends on whether you like Lord of the Rings. If you do, I would recommend it. If you like Risk, I would recommend it. If you are into like heavy war games, such as like I've got Conquest of the Empire or something like that, might be a little bit too easy, I guess you could say, for you. But ultimately, I think this works pretty well. So, guys, that's my review of Risk Lord of the Rings Trilogy. I'll see you soon. Take care. Keep on gaming.